Going live, ma'am.
Great. Okay, Buddhaditya, let's start.
Okay. Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. So today we'll be presenting the prize for our poster, which was announced by Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter of the INYS, and it's basically it's the occasion to celebrate the International Women's Day, although we have 1 day or 2 days late. But this poster competition was to encourage the school students to know our scientists, women scientists who have a contribution, and we received a fabulous number of entry. So there were mainly a few groups. So group A consists of students from standard 6 to standard 8, and there was other group A, which was from standard 9 to standard 10, and another group from standard 11 and standard 12. So we have three speakers with us today. Dr. Anindita Bhadra from IISER Kolkata, Dr. Bitan Ghosh, and also I think we will be hearing from, uh, I don't see the other member. Just let me check. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Buddhaditya, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hello?
Yes, you are audible.
You are audible, yes. Dr. Manju is on.
Hello?
Yeah. Okay.
You're audible.
Hello? Sorry, I think I lost my connection. So we have three speakers for today. Professor Anindita Bhadra from IISER Kolkata, so Bitan Ghosh, and Professor Manju. So without any further delay, I will invite Professor Anindita Bhadra to present her talk, and then we will follow up.
Maybe Buddhaditya is losing his connection. So I'm continuing. So before giving this Zoom stage to Anindita, I would like to request Dr. Kutubuddin Molla from our chapter, Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter, to present in front of you the activities. I think Kutub will present activities of our chapter for last 1 year or maybe little more than that. So I hand over this Zoom platform to Kutub. Kutub, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sriparna. So is it okay? Is it visible?
No, not yet.
Please. Hello.
Kutub, it says you are sharing your screen, but the screen is not coming up.
Okay. Now is it okay?
No. Yeah.
No.
Okay, good.
Now this is visible.
Thank you very much, Sriparna, and sorry for this technical glitches from the beginning. So it's my pleasure to introduce to all of you. I know Anindita is very familiar with INYAS and INS and all this thing, but to other participants who might be not that much aware of what we do as a member of Indian National Young Academy of Science. So we are based in New Delhi. And in 2014, Indian National Science Academy decided to establish this Indian National Young Academy of Science, and it is the only established and recognized young science academy in India. So in 2014, INSA selected 20 founding members. They are all INSA Young Scientist Awardee, and that was the beginning of the great journey of INYAS. And now we are growing like anything, including all spheres of science in India, and looking after mainly outreach and other activities, which is needed for our scientific community. And also emphasizing on gender diversity, institutional diversity, and all of these kind of things. So, our mission as a INYAS, as a young academy of science, we want to engage in interdisciplinary and intergenerational dialogues on scientific issues. And our vision is to promote science education and outreach, and also to network among young scientists across India, and also support or give a voice to young scientists in their career development and independence, and also building scientific temperament across the country, especially focusing on school children to the other stakeholders. And also collaborating with other young academies worldwide. So we are very well connected to other young academies and even global young academy. So if you see, in order to encourage more outreach in a regional level outreach activities, and also more collaborations and coordination among members in a particular area or regional location, INYAS decided to start some chapters from July 2020, and till now we are total 8 chapters, and we represent Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter. So recently we are also extending this Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter to Ranchi sections, because some of the members also joining us. So if you see, now coming to this INSA Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter, so this beautiful, photography has been made by Siparna to represent our chapter. And these are the current members of Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter, including me from biological science. I'm from ICR National Rice Research Institute, Cuttack. Dr. Praveen is from Indian Association of Cultivation of Science, Kolkata. Dr. Siparna is from CSIR IMMT Bhubaneswar. Dr. Nishant is from IIT Kharagpur. Dr. Chirasri Rai Chaudhary is from IIEST Shivpur. Dr. Shandip Pal is also from Kolkata, GIS Institute of Advanced Studies and Research. Dr. Dibyendu Chatterjee is also from my institute, ICR in RRI Cuttack. And we got in this year, we got 4 new members joined us. We are very happy to get those, energy in the form of Dr. Budhaditya Mukherjee from IIT KGP, Dr. Namisha Sharma from ILS Bhubaneswar, Dr. Izaz Ahmed from IIT Dhanbad, Dr. M.S. Santosh from CSIR CIMFR Dhanbad. So we are total 11 members representing Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter. So if you see the activities that we do, and it is not possible to present all the activities what we do and how we contribute to INYAS activities and also to Indian science, but I would be giving you some of the glimpses in the recent past we have done. So we have conducted, webinar series for senior school and college students for various career paths that exist in our country. So we invited, expert members to speak on various aspects of careers, including Anindita Bhadra also delivered a lecture in this series. Then we also conducted a webinar on intellectual property rights and patents. And then we also, collaborated with Royal Society of Biology UK to conduct this quiz competition on biology. And then we also conducted Bioscope, that is a kind of writing competition. And every competition, our tradition is that every competition is followed by expert lecture and interaction. So it's kind of two-way. And then we also, during pandemic, also we did career counseling online. So then also we conducted some advanced level of webinar, like advances in material science and engineering. This is a webinar series we have conducted. We also not forget about the other stakeholders of science, like farmers who are dependent on agricultural science. So we did farmers awareness and training program in Odisha. And we also did a one-day national symposium on Down syndrome that named as Mid Marathon. So these are the few things that I wanted to highlight here, but there are a lot of activities, but I don't want to say everything what we did. But now coming to today's program, that's International Women's Day celebration. We know that 8th March is celebrate International Women's Day. And women's rights, equality, everything depends on a long journey of continuous encouragement and awareness. So this is also an effort to that journey. And we know there is a huge contribution that women make inside. So if I want to give you my personal example, I did my PhD with a female supervisor, Dr. Karabi Datta from University of Calcutta. And what I'm doing now, work on genome editing, that was pioneered by two, lady, Emmanuel Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna. So this is just what to say. So that's why INYAS thought to celebrate this day, and also our chapter thought to celebrate this day, and also in order to encourage school kids to acknowledge the contribution of women in science through a poster competition. And we will be announcing the winners. Very nice poster we have got. And then the interactive sessions with guests. So we have a lot of speakers to listen today. Not going into further of these details. These are our contact details of INYAS. If you have in the audience, if you need any kind of help related to science outreach, all kind of things, you could write, you could reach out through this medium. So this is all today from my side. Over to you, Sriparna.
Thank you, Kutub. So, Budaditto, are you online? Should
Yes,
I
I
hand
think
over?
it's fine now. Sorry for the
Okay,
miss.
that's fine. So then I would like to request you to introduce Anindita and let us hear from her. So just introduce Anindita.
Okay, so Professor Anindita Bhadra is doing his research on behavior of dog. I know in Twitter he called his lab Dog Lab, and she's from IISER Kolkata. So probably she doesn't remember me now, but when during my visit in IISER Kolkata, like it was one of my first interview when I was coming back, she was the one who have hosted me. So it was really nice experience. I really enjoyed talking with her that time, and she have done tremendous contribution in Indian science in behavioral aspects of human and dog relationship and how it shaped the human behavior also. Uh, from starting from, I think she started from her lab in 2014. Am I correct? Uh,
2009 actually.
2009, yeah, the first of the professors to be recruited in IISER Kolkata, right? It was around 2008, 2009. So Professor Bhadro also co-chair of Global Young Academy. She was the founding chair of INYS from 2015 to 2018. She have received a number of awards like Women Bioscientist Award from DBT, IAP Young Scientist Award, ACRB Women Excellence Award, and ACRB Women Power Award. So without any further delay, let us hear from Professor Bhadro.
Thank you, Budaditya. I'll begin by sharing my screen, just telling if it is visible. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
It's visible.
Thank you for the warm welcome and the introduction. It's always a pleasure to come back to any event organized by INYAS. I have the longest possible association with INYAS. So since I was asked to talk to young people, I thought I will not talk about what I do in my research, but I will talk about something which, again, is very close to my heart, which is scientific temper. In fact, today, just before this talk, I was talking to a colleague saying that I have a talk now, so I have to go. And she said, "What are you talking on?" And I said this. And her daughter, who's just finished school, was around, and she's like, "What is scientific temper?" So that is the sad situation of children in our country, where we have not even heard the term scientific temper. And this is what triggered this idea, because I have children of this age and I interact with children all the time, and I hear that they have never heard about this. So before I begin with what I have to say, I would like to show you this video. Sit back and enjoy. So the message that I was trying to highlight using this video is that this tiny blue dot out there in the sky is our only planet. There is no planet B. So if you think about the wars which are happening across the world, if you think about the melting polar ice caps, if you think closer to home, every year our capital city experiences immense air pollution, and we are always discussing this, but there's no solution to this. Fires in the Amazon, which killed millions of species, sudden floods in cities which have never happened before. On one end, immense crisis of potable water. On the other hand, all of these are realities of the planet that we live in, and all of these are situations that the Earth is facing because of one species, which is the Homo sapiens. Of course, it gives me hope when I think of movement like Fridays for Future, which is again something that young people, teenagers started. Everybody now knows about Greta Thunberg, but she started Fridays for Future when she was a high school kid. And other children joined in, and it has become a movement which is worldwide. So young people are the ones who still give us hope in thinking about the planet and thinking about sustainability for the future, where the planet might survive to see future generations on this earth. And the Sustainable Development Goals 2030, proposed by the United Nations, is something which only now the world is sitting up and taking seriously when we have less than 10 years to attain these goals. There are 17 goals, and if you look at them, goals of no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, all of these are goals that we are far, far away from reaching. And we now know that there is no way we are going to attain the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. But at least now people are waking up and having a discussion about what we can do. And in that, one Sustainable Development Goal is Goal 5, which is gender equity. And this year, when we celebrated International Women's Day, then the theme has moved on. Earlier, it was equality. So everyone should be treated equally. Women should get equal rights as men. But now we are thinking of gender equity. It is not just enough to have equality. We should have equity where every individual can have what they need. So what is good enough for one woman might not be required for another, might not be good enough for another. And this is irrespective of gender. Equity is where you are treated as an individual and you are given your rights as an individual. And of course, if you think about it, even there, we are far away from achieving this. And when you think about countries in the global south, where the majority of people are really poor, really below poverty lines, and suffering from a lot of issues, beginning from a lot of hunger, there you cannot even start imagining what an equitable society is like. Whatever we say, at the end of the day, the world realizes now that the world needs science. You cannot have sustainability, sustainable solutions without having science. So be it development of vaccines, be it green chemistry, be it clean power, be it artificially produced food, or ways to reduce plastic pollution, we need the scientists to come up and think about solutions for the future of the world. And before we have scientists, we need to have education. We need to have science education. We need to reach out to people in the schools and the colleges and tell them about the importance of doing science. Thinking about the importance of science and sustainability, the United Nations announced 2022-23 as the International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development. They said we cannot have sustainability without thinking about science, and we cannot have science without putting a lot of emphasis on what is basic science. So I'm quoting here from the speech that Audrey Azoulay gave. She is the Director General of UNESCO. This was the speech that she delivered at the opening ceremony of IYB-SSD, which was on 8 July 22. Because of the pandemic, typically these years, special years, happen from January to December in the calendar year. But right now, because of the pandemic, everything got delayed, and they wanted to have an in-person opening session for UNESCO to declare this year. So that is why it is from 8th July 22 to 6th October 23. She says, at a time when humanity must invent new ways of producing, traveling, and heating, we know we need the basic sciences and the potential they possess. More than ever, we must allow the basic sciences to expand in all directions in order to explore, investigate, and experiment. For this capacity to imagine, innovate, and discover will determine whether we are able to rise to the major challenges of our time. And the challenges that she's talking about comes in the shapes of global warming, climate change, lack of drinking water, etc., that I presented earlier. I would like you, the young people in the audience, to think about who you think of when you think of a scientist. At one point of time, I had conducted a series of competitions asking children from middle school and high school to draw a scientist. And over again, when we did these events, we saw that the scientist that comes out in most drawings is something like this. A person with white hair, a white lab coat, holding a test tube, looking very nerdy, often very elderly, often white-skinned. And that is kind of the imagery of a scientist that a lot of people have in mind, whether you're young or old. Some people will think about scientists as a young person with large, big spectacles working in a chemistry lab. Some would think about rockets. In fact, a lot of you drew Kalpana Chawla in this competition. And some would eventually think about somebody looking through a microscope. But most often than not, even if you Google scientist, majority of drawings which will come up would be of men. Very few would be of women. In fact, I was very surprised when I saw girls who are drawing in this Draw a Scientist contest are drawing male scientists and not female scientists. So it feels as if even a young girl who's 12, 13, 14 years old does not even envision herself as a scientist in the future. You think about the men as doing the science, which is very unfortunate. And this is something that we keep discussing. And that is why, in fact, now we have an International Day for Women and Girls in Science, which is celebrated a couple of weeks before we celebrate International Women's Day. In fact, 3 weeks before we celebrate Women's Day. And here I would like to talk about the scientific enterprise. What is science? Who is a scientist? So modern day, you might think of heavy equipment, the fancy laboratories to do science, but then think about the early humans who discovered how to build a fire. Were they not scientists? They were actually doing something which nobody had done before. Somebody must have accidentally discovered fire, but then others figured out how to build a fire, how to every time light a fire, which I think involves a lot of observations and research. Or the first person to make a wheel which changed the way people moved. People moved things, people moved themselves from one place to another. And this came before agriculture, so we were still nomads. And a wheel would have changed lifestyles forever. And then came agriculture. And it is believed that agriculture was probably accidentally discovered by women. Because in the hunting-gathering societies, the men would typically go out for the big kills. And the women and the children would be the gatherers. They would be gathering fruits and nuts and berries and things like this. And it's very likely that they figured out that a fruit, a seed, which is left in the soil, sprouts a plant. And eventually, you can use this for your own benefit. So the early agriculturists were probably the women of the society. And they definitely, as far as I'm concerned, are scientists. People, when they early humans who learned to cut and chip stone to make very simple tools, which could be used for killing an animal, for taking out the skin, for removing the fur, for cutting things in pieces. Making of tools is something which requires engineering and scientific skills. Imagine what kind of science would have gone into, what kind of research would have gone into the making of the mummies. mummies which were made in ancient Egypt hundreds of years ago still survive. And the entire process includes biology, includes chemistry, includes a lot of experimentation, which people must have undertaken in order to finally come up with the best way of preserving dead bodies. So would you not call them scientists? The early people who were typically at that time priests, were they not scientists if they were discovering how to preserve a dead body in such lifelike condition? The fantastic constructions and the fantastic design of the Indus Valley civilization cities, think about Mohenjo-daro, think about Harappa, the perfectly laid out city plans, were these city planners, engineers, not scientists. If anyone has been to the caves of Bhimbetka in Bhopal, if you have not, do definitely try and visit them some point of time in your lives. There are many such caves across the world where you find cave paintings depicting life using organic vegetable dyes, which have been preserved till date. And in many of these paintings, be it Bhimbetka or be it elsewhere, you would find very, people with these typical headdresses and in weird postures who were called shamans. Shamans were like priests who were also healers. They were thought to have magical powers, but basically they would have developed some skill at healing by learning, which herb treats what ailment. And these were the early physicians that human societies had. So definitely they were also scientists in their own capacities. Many of you would have heard the name of Shushruta. He is considered as one of the greatest doctors, physicians of his times. He practiced in Kashi, which is basically Varanasi. And there have been debates about when he was practicing, but now we know, if you look at the language in which Shushruta Samhita is written, now we know that Shushruta was probably not one person, but somebody, and then his followers, which is basically called a school of thought. And they were there somewhere around 600 BC to maybe the 4th or 5th century AD or CE. And we know that Shushruta had amazing treatises, many of which are valid till date. In fact, if you look at Shushruta Samhita's drawings, there is a whole page where there are instruments which have been drawn, which they used to use for surgeries. His claim to fame was making artificial noses for people who have had an amputation of the nose, typically thieves who would have their noses cut off, and then he would basically do plastic surgery to replace their noses with artificial ones. So he was basically doing this 2,500 years ago. Can you imagine? And those people survived. So otherwise this wouldn't have come into the books. So he was experimenting with medicine so many years ago. Or if I look at Aryabhatta, there's a statue of Aryabhatta, which is there in Pune at an institute of institute called IUCA, IUCAA. This is an astronomy institute, and they have put up this beautiful statue of Aryabhatta the first, who was considered to be a physician, a physicist, a mathematician, and an astronomer. So all of these people, they were doing science at their times using their own methods. And these were definitely scientific practices which contributed to the scientific enterprise that we have today. We shift from...
You know about...
Pardon? Did someone speak?
No, I think it was in background. You can continue.
Okay. Yeah. So shifting from India to the West, this is a very beautiful drawing of Plato's Academy. This was the 1st century AD. This was in Pompeii, where people would meet, have elaborate, long drawn-out debates and discussions on what was called then philosophy. Plato and Aristotle are names that many of us have read in history. They did what is called natural philosophy. And they are considered to be the founders of deductive reasoning which is what we do in science today. You have a set of logical steps to arrive at a conclusion. Then we did not have physics and chemistry and mathematics and biology. Can people please
just hold on, just hold on. Yeah. So please, everyone, switch off your microphone, and if you have to ask anything, please write in the chat box. Professor Bhatra will reply afterward. Thank you. Please continue.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So early days of all of these, people who would call themselves philosophers, they did not think, okay, this is physics and this is chemistry, and we have to discuss in subgroups. There was nothing like a disciplinary silo. Again, switching gears and coming back to India, the first ever residential university of the world was built here, which is Nalanda, which no longer exists, but you can still go visit the ruins of Nalanda, of course, where you imagine this was a Buddhist university. Their students were taught Buddhism, of course, but they also learned the Vedas, logic, grammar, philology, medicine, magic, and mathematics. Another university in Bologna, which is much later, 1350s, where again, people who attended classes here would be doing Masters of Arts, and arts included arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, music theory, grammar, logic, and rhetoric. So what subject comes under what umbrella depends on how people in those times think. Eventually, we had the later scientists, beginning with Galileo, who was considered to be the father of modern science, where you have this method of observations or questions leading to research, topics leading to some hypothesis, a test or an experiment, data analysis, and conclusions. So this is now the modern scientific method that we follow. Early thinkers who have been influenced by this method and who have worked on this method, like Galileo or Isaac Newton was one. There was this fantastic book which at one point of time made a lot of influence by Robert Boyle. It was called The Skeptical Chemist. So, these are early texts and people who influenced what is known as the scientific method today. And now we have huge scientific collaborations. COVID gave us this, the idea of what collaborations and thinking outside your discipline can do. This is just one such representation of scientific collaborations during COVID-19, which is why we ended up having the fastest ever vaccine to fight the pandemic, because people started sharing their research, sharing their ideas, sharing their data, and there was a lot of crosstalk across disciplinary boundaries, across political borders, and a lot of science was done at a very, very rapid pace using scientific collaborations. So we had no disciplinary boundaries to strict disciplinary boundaries, and now from this, we are now again moving to collaborations across disciplinary boundaries. So just quoting from this paper, nearly 1/3 of all vaccine candidates were developed by partnerships, which tended to use the next-gen vaccine platforms rather than solo or individual efforts by one research group or one person. So, do we need science? Do we need technology? There is a lot of effort, impact being made by applied sciences. So people want you to do applied sciences because that is where the money is, that is where the business is. So you have curiosity-driven science. Some people call it blue skies research. We call it basic science. And then curiosity-driven science gives rise to new knowledge, opens up more questions. Now, from there, you can go back and do more curiosity-driven science, or you can have some new idea which leads to an innovation, leads to application of products and scaling up at the industrial level where you go into a business. So you can have an idea which you incubate and have your own industrial product, or you can be focused on doing the basic research and somebody else might be taking this idea to do innovations. We have to remember that innovations, technologies are developed based on something that somebody has already done in basic research. And that is why IYB-SSD was envisaged. Let me give you just one example. This is Carey Mullis, who received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1993 because he discovered what was called the PCR, the polymerase chain reaction. He did this because he was doing some research in his lab with DNA, and he came up with a method in which you can use a small piece of DNA, and using this method, you can make large amount of DNA from this small piece. So you can make copies of this piece of DNA, and you can get a lot of DNA for your research. Based on his idea, for which he got the Nobel Prize, 5 years later, a company came up with something they called a PCR thermal cycler. And this was the company Perkin-Elmer and Cetus. So Cetus came up with the thermal cycler, Perkin-Elmer came up with a chemical known as DNA polymerase, and together that made a huge change in how research was being done using DNA, where this instrument could be now used to run the polymerase chain reaction. Why should we care? Because now every household uses the term RT-PCR, and this is the PCR that we are talking about. So this one basic scientific research eventually, so many years later, has contributed to the best way to test whether a sample has the SARS-CoV-2 infection or not. So I said I'm going to talk about scientific temper. I spoke about the scientific method and the scientific enterprise. What on earth is the scientific temper? India is the only country where scientific temper is a phrase included in the constitution of the country. In fact, I'm going to read from Article 51A. It says, it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures, to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. So these are the fundamental duties of a citizen of the country. You should have humanism, you should have spirit of inquiry and reform, and you should have scientific temper. So what on earth is this? You basically ask a lot of questions, and children are the best at asking questions. Unfortunately, we put them through an education system which kills the spirit of inquiry. Because we run after grades and ranks and marks, we forget to ask questions and get bothered about questions. So if you want to build scientific temper, you basically should have the mindset of not accepting anything without proof. Even if it is written in your books, or because your elders tell you so, or because you find it in the internet, or because your friends tell you so, or because your teachers tell you so. Often we just accept things which are told to us because somebody older than us or more well-read than us has said this. But how do you know that this is true? One simple example which a colleague of mine, senior colleague of mine, always uses. In our textbooks, we have read about this experiment. You take a glass full of water, you put a card on it, and you upturn the glass of water, the card will not fall. How many of us have actually tried doing this at home? When I ask this in a forum where I can see people's faces, I see a lot of children smiling, and I see a lot of people tentatively looking at each other, and a few raising their hands saying, I actually tried it once. Those are the real scientists who actually went back and tried doing this. Unfortunately, we don't do this in our classrooms. We read about it, we read the explanation of why this is so, but something so simple to be done, we never try it in our classrooms to actually see whether this works, and if it works, why it works. So all we need is to be curious, because curiosity, as Calvin says, is the essence of the scientific mind. Remember, all good research begins with a set of questions, which open up experiments, observations, calculations, data analysis, call it what you might, which eventually lead to answers. And together they build a good story. I will end with one small story for you. This is, as I call, Nico's story. Nico Tinbergen. He was a biologist, a scientist. He watched one day that these big wasps, which make holes in the ground where they make their nests, they are called beetles. They live in the ground, and he was walking through a meadow and he saw a lot of these beetles flying around, and he wondered, how do they know which is their nest? There are a lot of holes in the ground. So the question was, how do beetles find their nest entrance when they return with prey after they have left from the nest? So basically, he's thinking about navigation. Now, when we think about navigation as humans, there are many ways in which we navigate. We can use street signs, we can use magnets, we can use a map, we can ask people the direction, and of course, these days, we simply ask Google. Animals are known to navigate using various means. Ants lay trails for each other. Honeybees use a very complex language of dance to tell each other where to fly. There are a lot of research going on how migratory birds follow the exact route every year to migrate from the poles to warmer places in the winter and back again in the summer or spring, or how underwater migrations over long distances happen, for example, for the olive-red turtle. So we know that they use the Earth's geomagnetic field to understand these directions. So Tinbergen's question was about these wasps, which are called beetles, really big ones. They will go out of this nest, fly out, find something to kill, in this case a bee, and sting it, paralyze it, and fly back with it. How does it know which hole to go to? So what Tinbergen did was he picked up these acorns which were lying around in the meadow, made a hole, made a circle around this hole. So he said, maybe they are using landmarks. Let me see if they actually use this circle of acorns as a landmark. And when he puts this circle of acorns, the beetle goes out, comes back, and directly enters the nest. Next, what he did, he left the nest where it was, shifted the circle a little away from the actual nest entrance, and he found that the bee wolf comes to the center of the circle and does not go to its nest. Eventually, it doesn't find the hole, flies up, hovers over for some time, and then eventually finds its nest hole. Then he's made a circle of stones and a triangle of acorns, and he found that the bee wolf will not go to the triangle of acorns, but actually go to the center of the circle of stones. So he learned that bee wolves are basically using the pattern rather than the item of the landmark. And Tinbergen, just to let you know, shared the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine with two other people, Carl von Frisch, who discovered the honeybee's dance language, and Konrad Lorenz, who discovered something called imprinting in 1973. And this was the only time in all of these years that three people studying animal behavior received the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine. Now, what I want to highlight is Tinbergen was doing what we call behavioral biology. And why am I saying this? Because I do the same. What do we behavioral biologists do? We try to understand how animals live and why they live the way they do, because the why addresses how evolution shaped the life histories of plants and animals. So we peep into the day-to-day lives of plants and animals. Now, most of you would be living in the city, and if I told you, go and study animals, you might say, where do I find them? And I'm just giving you a few glimpses of life that we find in the city. A whole bunch of, in this case, kites flying in the sky, mena, langurs in some places, monkeys in some others, cows, butterflies, of course, bees, crows, lizards in your room, cats, dogs are only some of the animals that we can find around us. So what I'm trying to tell you is anyone can become a nature watcher and be a scientist, whether you're being trained to become a scientist or not. You can be scientist, you can do science as your hobby. So we do dog watching. We try to understand how dogs live, how they interact with humans, but then You can do animal watching for any animal, or for that matter, you can do plant watching. All that you need is a curious mind. Have a lot of questions, and with a notebook and paper, start exploring. And you would find things which would amaze you, maybe often things which nobody has ever found before you. And that is how new research, blue skies research, is done. I'm going to stop here, thanking the INYAS Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter for this invitation. And before I end, I need to acknowledge this book or series of books. I would be interested to know if anyone in the audience has read these. Series by Brandon Sanderson, who is a very excellent epic fantasy writer. And he has the series called The Way of Kings. That is where I borrowed half of my title from. If you have noticed it, it says journey before destination. And I think research is really the journey that we scientists enjoy. The destination could be one paper published or a result, but it's really the journey which is important and interesting, because once you reach the destination, all you want to do is go back on another journey. And I borrowed this from Brandon Sanderson because I really like the phrase journey before destination. And I wanted to emphasize that all of you should enjoy the journeys that you undertake and keep scientific temper with you in your journeys. Thank you.
So the floor is open for question. If anyone wants to ask any question, you can raise your hand, or we can, proceed with the further program, and then at the end we can have a discussion. Anindita, you'll stay with us, I think, till end.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Okay. So Budaditya, we can move to the next talk.
Budaditya, you're muted.
Yeah, so I think it's fine now. So thank you so much for this nice talk, Professor Bhadru. It really was very interesting and something I really enjoyed. Haven't heard this kind of talk very often, so it was really nice to hear from you. I'm sure the students will have many questions, so maybe we later have a discussion. So let me now introduce you to our next speaker for the day. So our next speaker is Dr. Manju Umakrishnan, who is a senior principal scientist in IIT Bhubaneswar. Dr. Umakrishnan earned her PhD from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. She has an excellent academic record throughout. So she was actually the university first rank holder both in her BSc and Masters. She has several fellowship, of which International Center for Theoretical Physics fellowship was very important and worth mentioning. She has served as an expert in several poster, lecture, and debate, and several other competition. She prefers and have a niche for art, craft, and culture. So please welcome Professor Manju Umakrishnan.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I have not prepared a talk as such. I'm just conversing for, say, a couple of minutes to all of you. It's a great privilege to be here among this august audience, and thank you, INYAS Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter, for giving me this opportunity. So it was a wonderful talk already given by Professor Anindita Bhadra on the scientific temperament. And it is on the occasion of, say, International Women's Day. So greetings to all of you on the International Women's Day. But this term of celebrating the International Women's Day, this always brings mixed feelings to me. Because many times I feel, why do I have to celebrate a Women's Day being a woman? Why can't I sit back and maybe somebody else celebrate me for that? But over the years, what I realized is that if I don't celebrate myself, nobody else is going to do it for me. So it is better that I celebrate myself so loudly that the other people has to sit and notice for what this girl is celebrating. So I think we have reached that stage, and I got convinced about this all the more when I got a chance to evaluate this poster competition this year. Wow, what excellent creativity the younger generation are having. What profound thoughts they are having. See, I saw the poster, so as I'm giving a short feedback about the poster competition. So there were 3 categories: Class A, Class B, Class C. And in Class A, we had about 37 posters, which were from 6, 7, 8 standards. From the category B, we were having 16 posters from, say, standard 9 and 10. And the Class C, for some reason, we had much less number of posters. Maybe they were quite busy with the exams also, because we had only 3 posters there. But the thing is, the way they have poured out their feelings. See, the title given was, I believe, is Achievements of Women in Science. So we definitely, many of them have portrayed about all our great women scientists, starting from Janaki Ammal, Sunita Williams, Kalpana Chawla, Rohini Godbole, Tessie Thomas. So many people, but some of them have also broken free from this concept of achievements of women and have poured out much different thoughts. And I would really like to read out some of them for you. For example, you are beautiful, brave, smart, funny, lovable, kind, and so much more. You are enough and always will be. This is what one of the posters said. Someone said, science knows no gender because knowledge belongs to humanity. I think this kind of thoughts, when comes into the younger generation, we can really look forward to them. Then there were many more. Every woman's success should be an inspiration to another. I believe in the unlimited power of women in the context of science and engineering. Today's women and girls can invent anything if they have willpower and ability. Believe in yourself and your feelings. Trust yourself to do what your heart is guiding you to do. Your intuition is powerful. And one of the posters specifically was very interesting, where a lot of questions were put forward. How rocket is moving forward? Why the watch glass is thick? Why where the round bottom flask is used? And in the end, the person has asked this question: can science answer all my questions? Or science is just the beginning of questioning? So I would like to conclude here, telling that we have a lot to look forward to from our younger generation, and I really am hopeful, looking forward to them. Thank you, INYAS Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter once again, and greetings once again on this International Women's Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manju.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, thank you, Professor Makrishan, and thank you so much for evaluating the posters for us. So now let me call the next speaker for the day. So we have next. So we will be hearing from Professor Amrita Satpathy, who is a faculty of School of Humanities and Social Science and Management in Indian Institute of Technology, Bhubaneswar. She joined in 2009, and since her joining, she have been involved with classroom teaching with various aspects like communication skill, technical writing. She received a Teaching Excellence Award in 2015 at IIT Bhubaneswar. Her area of research includes travel writing and life writing. She has contributed academically in many journal papers, book chapters, and reviewed nationally and international journals. She has published two books, Shifting Images and Lining London. Uh, Her current area of interest include media and popular culture and creative writing. She have received many awards for her contribution. Teachers training programs, several DAV schools of Bhubaneswar. She have also been initiated the program which is known as Ishan Vikas, responsible for International Institute of Knowledge Management, and she have contributed also in the digital education. So let us hear from Professor Amrita now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Buddhaditya, for this warm and wonderful welcome and the introduction. And so I don't have a PowerPoint presentation per se, but I think my beautiful and very enlightening speakers before me, Dr. Manju Unikrishnan and Dr. Anindita Bhadra were, I'm kind of recapitulating on what they have said. So you'll find a lot of similarities to what they have been saying so far. So since, as I was introduced, I was told that I'm a teacher by profession and I'm a researcher. So I'm a literate. So I will tell stories. So since it's about school children, so since it's about science, and I was given a very interesting topic by my dear friend Shiparna. So without wasting any more time, I'll just be talking to you about everything. And before that, I would just like to say that it's such an honor and a matter of great pleasure to be talking to all of you on this occasion of International Women's Day, organized by INYAS, the Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter. And during for this occasion, so when I was requested by my dear friend Shiparna to give a talk, and I was actually very boggled, and I asked her, what would you like me, a teacher and researcher of literature, to say, that to a group of scientists and scholars of science. So she said, art as a medium of expression. And then I thought, why not? So my speaker before me introduced you all to a very beautiful book. I think the Storm Trilogy or something it's called, and I think you will relate to it. So interestingly, at this moment of time, I'm reading a very interesting book called Lessons in Chemistry, which tells the story of a single mother and research chemist. Her name is Elizabeth Zott. And the setting is late 1950s and early 1960s, a very patriarchal USA. And she finally becomes the character, Elizabeth Zott. She becomes a character in this, she becomes a host of a cookery show called Supper at 6. And she challenges women to voice their opinion and fight for their rights through food. And when Zott is denied a PhD and a job as a scientist at a very reputed university, she decides to educate the women around her. And she not only uses her culinary skills, but also informs her audience very creatively about everyday chemicals and chemical compounds which are found in the kitchen around you. And she also talks in the language of the scientist. So very creatively, she uses chemical bonding, chemical covalence, chemical equilibrium. So as I was reading, and then what Shiparna told me, so it struck me that how extraordinarily the writer of this book, Bonnie Garmus, has shown the presence of art in science. And the cookery shows, in fact, all cookery shows which are airing right now, from Master Chef to Sanjeev Kapoor, whoever you can say, you will agree that the moment you see that they are all quite a combination of, art and science. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you some stories about where art and science meet. And I'm sure you must have heard those stories. So I'm just going to recapitulate for you. All right. And if I am not audible at some time, do let me know. There is some connection problem at this end. So far, am I audible, everyone? Is it fine?
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So science and art. So normally, since it's the International Women's Day, so we have said that science is masculine and art is feminine. So those are the, the black and white interpretations that we get. But if you look deep into it, all of you, so you'll say that if science stands for intellect and art stands for emotion, and if science stands for reason, then art stands for passion. And if science is logic, then art is soul. And the amalgamation of the two will herald the birth of a holistic spirit and the progress of the society, which has been very beautifully said also by Claude Bernard. And he said, art is I and science is we. So it's very imperative for all of us, to first and foremost follow our dreams and desires so that we can work for the greater good, because that has always been the vision of science, to work for the greater good, to work to make a better world for mankind. And it is also something that I've realized, as a teacher and a researcher, that it's very important for us to give ourselves priority first. Priority to good health, priority by good health, I mean mental health and physical health, of course. Our hobbies, our talents, our wishes, our goals, our ambitions. Only then can we, move forward in life. So as they say, an unfulfilled person, can never solve another person's problems. And it has always been the tenet of science to solve problem, right? So it's very important for us, as the first speaker, told us, scientific temper, to have the right scientific temper. And we have, in order to question, in order to have the right scientific temper, we have to pepper it a little with, an aesthetic acumen. Because everyone will agree with me, it was a draftsman, a sculptor, architect, engineer, and painter who epitomized the Renaissance humanist ideals of renewal and reawakening. I'm sure by the time I ended my sentence, you might have realized who I'm talking about. Yes, it's Leonardo da Vinci. No one could have been as creative as him or as artistic as him than any scientist. And Leonardo da Vinci showed us that there can never be a vision without a dream. And it is believed that most, in Da Vinci's notebooks were way ahead of his time, because they revealed not only the spirit of scientific inquiry, but also inventiveness, innovation, and creativity. Why Da Vinci saw the world from an artist's eye? Because he was endowed with the artist's temperament. Everything and every phenomenon he experienced became a subject of knowledge for him. That is how, I think Dr. Anindita Bhadra will agree with me. So that's how she also said that you have to have the eye to see, the right to question. And she gave a very good example of how we, are not encouraging our children to question. So Da Vinci gave the world what is known as the sapere vedere, that is knowing how to see, which is very important trait for any person who's starting or training to be a scientist or an engineer or a technocrat. Anywhere you want to apply science, it's very important you should know how to see. So it's just like, the bees, the examples of the bees that she gave. Otherwise the tenet of technology to serve mankind is just lost. And I was reading a very interesting, an article where there was this very nice line which was by Cyril Connolly. So he said that today the function of the artist is to bring imagination to science and science to imagination, where they meet in the myth. But I don't think it's a myth anymore, because in this era of technology, where the boundaries between man and machine are blurring every day, I think it is very important for us to know where we stand. So the question here is to everyone, especially to the students and the scholars. So are we going to master technology, or is technology going to master us? Okay. So if you read any sci-fi or cli-fi novels and stories, you can see a future envisioned by the writer. So be it H.G. Wells or Isaac Asimov, be it Arthur C. Clarke or Douglas Adams, from Kurt Vonnegut to Stephen King, each one's vision of the future, each of them are brilliant, science fiction writers, and you find so many theories of science so creatively put, and you see each one's vision of the future is actually not so speculative anymore. I think it's that aesthetic or that artistic acumen which has helped them to go beyond the rigors of science. So you have that, you have to have that sense of predicting that, okay, this is what we are foreseeing. Otherwise, there can never be any invention, right? So right now, I think it's as someone who's in IIT, who's been teaching here for last 13 years, it's the duty of science and technology to hold hands with art and society, so that their coalition can save the humanity, which is at war on so many fronts now. And I believe the study of art is vital to science. Why? Because art helps to envision that which science can only derive. So art helps foster creativity and imagination, the two optimum fuels for innovation and lateral thinking. So we all keep using these words, use lateral thinking, use innovation. But if you don't have the vision, how will you think beyond, right? So we have read about so many, innumerable scientists who have who have arrived at solutions only through their part to visualize and their ability to imagine. So it's not just writers who dream and visualize, or poets who dream and visualize and conceive of a poet or a novel, but it's also scientists who do that. So I'll give you a very interesting example here. Again, it's another very brilliant story which you will relate to. So I was reading not very long back, interestingly, I was reading this article in the Smithsonian magazine, which is taken out by the Smithsonian Museum. So where it said that art is an essential component of science, and that art is a powerful tool for telling a scientific story. And I'll again go back to Dr. Bhadra. She shared cave paintings. So I will also give similar examples here. So she talked about the cave paintings which were found in India. So there are also the earliest of cave paintings, the Haliasta petroglyphs from Nordic Bronze Age. So these, if you look at those, you can Google them and you'll find the images on Google Images. So they gave us a glimpse to not only the society of the age, but also, their technology, their tools, their hunting apparatuses, their traveling gears, etc. So here, it's been so many years, but the art which they have left behind helped us to imagine and recreate all those stories that would have been normally very difficult for us to possibly imagine or conceive of how the, Bronze Age would have been. Right. And for this, there's another instance also. So everyone has heard of Charles Messier, the 18th century French astronomer. So it is said that he had a database of over 110 drawings from his diaries. And I'll tell you an interesting story here. I'm sure you will find it very thought-provoking. So most people say that, people who venture into the world of art can never be very useful contributors to the society as scientists or technologists. Okay, so I'll give you a very interesting example. Again, this is what I found in the Smithsonian, so I thought I should share with you. So they gave the example of this arts major. So her name was Alia Payne, and she was an interactive arts major at Maryland Institute College of Art. And she came to work with Smithsonian Museum with the live jellyfish collection. So while talking, while taking care of the jellies in the lab, she also brought, them out, these jellyfish. She brought them out into the museum and she taught the visitors about jellyfish biology. So basically, I think her job was to teach museum visitors or school children who were on a visit and tell them about these interesting creatures. So jellyfish are very enigmatic creatures. Okay. So they are, if you look at them, they are so beautiful. They look almost ethereal, but they are very lethal at the same time. And and she always got this interesting question: how do the jellyfish stings work? I mean, I'm sure it has. This question has popped in anyone's mind. So she had the scientific answer for them, but she didn't. She found it very difficult to explain it to them, the technicalities of the microscopic, stinging cells, and then how, that fire-like harpoons, or the way they come out of the sting, jellyfish, jelly tentacles without, being very clearly visible. So that's when she realized that I could teach this through art. So what she did was, she enrolled herself into this sculptor shop and in her school, and she was very excited to bring these microscopic stinging cells into full view. So what Alia did was, she built a 3D model of one of the stinging cells that line the jelly tentacles. They are called the nematocysts. So the visitors could touch and interact with them. So like these days, museums are so interactive. You can listen to them, you can, talk to people or dead people for that matter. And it's very interesting. So that's how, art and science have always been in collaboration with one another. It's just that we've never had that eye to see it. Anyways, so the model actually worked, and she showed the visitors a jelly stinging power, and this helped Payne to actually educate the visitors on how to take care of a jellyfish sting. So if you are stung by a jellyfish, unfortunately, so she taught them through this 3D model that how it is, how the jellyfish is, how the stinging cells are, how the poison or the dart comes out, and how you can treat. Once you are aware, you can treat. So she actually put science very creatively in order to explain that phenomenon. So as you can see, the arts have their applications in so many fields now, and it's very important for us to develop this artistic temperament along with a scientific one. So when I talk about art, I think in science, I see them everywhere. So from, the basic scientific illustrations in our lab copies, to 3D printing technology, to wildlife photography, to graphic designing, to cartography, to imaging, art has always been an inseparable part of the scientific world. So if you look, very carefully, the career options in arts is endless. I'm talking about career options in arts in science. So if you take science as the umbrella term, so in that, how art fits. Apart from that, art has its numerous usages. I don't want to go into that. Everyone knows. But, just so the idea is, one just has to be very imaginative about it. And since I teach communication, so I keep reading about, colors and how colors symbolize, or what do signs symbolize. So in one of my readings, I actually came across a fact that many modern day scientists and researchers opine that graphs, figures, and scientific illustrations are very powerful when they have, this touch of artistry. And in fact, cartography, if you look at one of the definitions of map making, It is defined as the art and science of making maps. It's not just the science of making maps, it's the art and science of making maps. And now there are apps also that provide the traveler with 3D maps of places and spaces which are so aesthetically built, and they have a very aesthetic feel to them. You can imagine them, so they imagine it for you. And what better example can you have than the fusion of arts and science here? And so normally you might have heard that many people say that science and literature, disparate disciplines that they are, can never meet. But many years back, before I joined IIT, I had similar vision, similar thoughts as well. But then when I started guiding my research scholars, I had two of my scholars who worked on a type of literature that is formed when these two disciplines they intersect. So that was eco-literature, or so it was ecological literature, or literature which dealt with natural phenomena. And one of my scholars worked on how the use of myth and mythology and folklore offered lessons in conservation and preservation of nature. And the other one, both of them have got their degrees, and they are very recently. And the other one worked on how climate fiction novels have the potential to create awareness on environmental and climate change. So they were very new disciplines, and it was very interesting actually. I read about climate change, I read about environment, I read about forest conservation, natural conservation, nature conservation. I learned about ecological systems, about balancing the ecosystem through literature. So Amitav Ghosh, I'm sure everyone must have heard about him, has often says that the great irreplaceable potentiality of fiction is that it makes the imagining of possibilities. So I think art gives you that space to imagine whether it is a scientific phenomena or it is an ideation that you are having, you're going to have, or a spark of innovation, that Eureka movement. And students and scholars, you can see that the applications of art and science are innumerable. And when art and science, come together, they lead to this beautiful self-discovery. And I think right now we have just started on that journey. And I saw a glimpse of that journey in all of you when I evaluated those, amazing art that I saw. There was one which really struck a chord with me. It was on the chimpanzee, the lady who dealt with, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name. So that was something, that was very close to my heart. So I saw her when I saw Nat Geo many years ago. So that was a very beautiful moment for me when I saw Jane Goodall, right? So Jane Goodall. So there was one poster which had Jane Goodall and the monkeys, the chimpanzee crowding around her. So that was a beautiful moment for me, where I saw science, art, and humanity coming together. So I think all your artistic illustrations showed, your keenness in exploring science through art. And I will end my, talk, my stories here. So by just saying that, may all your artistic philosophies, become catalysts for your technological aspirations. And may it also make you compassionate enough so that, each of you young scientists can become the engines of change. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to all of you. And it's been a privilege for me. So thank you, Shriparna, and thank you, Chirashri, for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amrita.
Thank you so much, Professor Satpathy. So that was very wonderful. So with this, we will call the last speaker of today's event. Dr. Bitan Ghosh. So Dr. Bitan Ghosh is a scientific officer working in Bhabha Atomic Research Center in Mumbai. She also did her PhD in chemistry from Homi Bhabha National Institute of Mumbai, and her field of specialization is characterization and characterization of membranes by with the incorporation of nanoparticles and other organic and inorganic materials. I see she is also a gold medalist, so she got a gold medal in her MSc examination in chemistry. So let us welcome Professor Bitan.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. It's actually my pleasure to be a part of the poster painting competition conducted by INYS, Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter. A very good number of entries we have received, and most of them are really nice. And really nice, both art and concept wise. However, I have some 2-3 points to mention to the budding artists. Okay, mostly they have joined in this online platform. Like few entries we have received have directly copied images from internet. Okay, and some of them has sent edited version of their artwork. These things are not acceptable. You all guys are very talented. Just use your imagination and just put the concept on the paper. Okay. Now, second point is some depictions are really very good, but they have deviated slightly from the theme of the competition. When a theme is given, you try to be in the theme. Okay. So the theme was achievement of women in science. Try to maintain that from the next time. Okay. And the general answered rule for poster making is there should be a margin across four, along all the four sides of the painting. This makes the painting look clean, as well as it highlights your painting also. If you put a margin along four sides of the poster, it enhances the actual picture. Okay. And don't write too much. Okay, like it's a painting competition, it's not an essay competition, right? So don't write too much. You can it's better if you can put your concept in 2-3 lines at the bottom of the painting. It will be great. Okay. But do not clump too many ideas in a single picture. That also makes the poster clumsy. Okay, these are few of my guidance to the students. Again, it is really very nice that this kind of program is being organized by INYAS, which can bring out a scientific mind and a creative soul all together from the very talented students of our country. Now, I wish all the very best to all the participants and a grand success to INYAS. And recently, we had National Science Day. It was on 28th of Feb, and Women's Day also, 8th March. So I wish you all a very happy National Science Day and very happy Women's Day. Thank you all. That's it.
Thank you, Bitan. So I'd just like to add that Bitan is an amazing artist. I don't know whether her Facebook profile is public or not. If it is public, then I would request all of you to visit her Facebook profile, and then you can see that, I mean, what are the imaginations she is creating every day. And as you know that she has done PhD in chemistry. She is a scientist working in BRC, one of the premier institute of our country. So Bitan, there is one question. I would like you to answer that. The question is like, art and science are different from each other or not? So it will be, I mean, can you just answer the student?
Yeah, it's not entirely different. I think they are related. Okay. Matlab, you can, what I can say, like illustration, what we call illustration. Okay, illustration is a form of art, but illustration is behind illustration, there is science. Okay, illustration is to conceptualize something in a very short manner, because it is said that one page of writing, it can be conceptualized in a single picture. Okay, and that's also science. Okay, like you need to understand what you want to portray. That is also science, right? So you need to conceptualize, and you can put it on paper either by pen or by brush. When you are doing it with a brush, it is painting.
Yeah, thank you, Vitan. So now I think let's move to the most awaited section of today's evening. So I'm just sharing my screen with all of you. There is some problem. Chirusri, can you share? Okay, I think it is okay now. Yeah. So can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's great. So as in the beginning, and I think by now you all know that who were the evaluators of your posters. So we had Dr. Anindita Bhadra. So Anindita is from biological science background. And then we had Dr. Manju Unnikrishnan. So Manju has expertise in physical science. And then we had Bitan. Bitan has expertise in chemical science. And we had Amrita, Dr. Amrita Shatpathy from IIT Bhubaneswar. So Amrita was there as a non-subject expert. Okay. So these are the these are the key people who has evaluated your posters, and then finally we have averaged their marks, what they have given, and now we are going to announce the result. So we will start with Group A. As you know, students from standard 6, 7, and 8 participated in this category. So the third prize goes to K. Devesh of standard 7 from Velammal Vidyalaya, Tamil Nadu. Congratulations, Devesh. I hope that Devesh is here. And I would request Devesh and his parents that it would be nice if you can send us your postal address to the email ID where you have sent this poster, so that we can send the certificate and the prize to your home address. Okay, so now let us move to the second prize. It is Amaradri Shankar Shahu, again from standard 7 from Garden High School, Aizer, Kolkata campus, West Bengal. And the first prize goes to Rudra Bhushan Mahabaleshwar of standard 7 from INYS Bal Section Mandir English Medium School, Pune, Maharashtra. Congratulations all. So now I am moving to group, sorry, it is written Group A, but it will be Group B. Sorry for this typo. So so again, in this category, in Group B category, students from standard 9 and 10, they participated. So the third prize goes to Brishti Pal of standard 10 from Baranagar Rajkumari Memorial Girls High School, West Bengal. Congratulations, Brishti. And the second prize goes to R. Sayali of standard 10, Montfort Matric Higher Secondary School, Chennai of Tamil Nadu. Congratulations, Sayali. And finally, the first prize goes to Francis Peter Sivalkar of Standard 9, AST Topiwala High School, Malvan, Sindhurg, Maharashtra. Congratulations, congratulations to all. Now in group C, as Dr. Manju told that we had only 3 entries. So in this category, we have decided to award only 1 student because there was not much participant, and the award goes to Ajay Hasda of Standard 11 from Balichak Bhojahari Institution, West Bengal. So once again, congratulations to all the prize winners. We will send your prizes to your home address. Please send us your postal address in the email mentioned. We'll of course write back to you regarding this. And congratulations once again, and thank you for participating in this event. Thank you. So now I would hand over this session to Chirashree to convey vote of thanks. So Chirashree, the floor is yours.
Yeah, at the outset, I would like to thank all the participants for their overwhelming response to the call for the poster competition on the occasion of International Women's Day. A special thanks to all our jury members for sparing their valuable time to evaluate all the posters. And I really agree, the posters were really innovative and impressive. And you have really made justice in the evaluation process of looking at the final details of all the artistic representations. We're also grateful to you as speakers for sharing your valuable thoughts on the event and enlightening the minds of the young students on different aspects of science, ranging from the importance of scientific representation of scientific thought to development of scientific temperament. So it was really a wonderful discussion. And we also take this opportunity to thank all the members of the INYAS Kolkata Bhubaneswar chapter for their support. And I acknowledge Ananya from INYAS office for all the logistics related support. So hope to see you all in the near future. And thank you once again for attending this event.
Now you can close the live streaming in YouTube.
Okay, ma'am.